Hello and welcome to Leviathan News. Today is August 8th. We have a very special guest. We have Mr. Nick Westlake here, who has come to talk about a story that we presented last week, and that is Arbitrum BOLD, which is bounded liquidity delay. And this was announced last week by Off-Chain Labs, and now Nick is here to tell us all about it. So, Nick, what is BOLD? And how is it going to make an impact on Arbitrum?
Sam, CurveCap, DeFi, thank you always for having me. I'm very happy to talk about BOLD, and to your point before, bounded liquidity delay, right? And it's something like super innovative that our developers here at Off-Chain Labs have been working on for quite some time and have developed, right? And really, this new approach addresses in the challenges in validating transactions on these chains, enhancing the chains. When I say chains, I mean Nova and One. Hey, Wen. And yeah, so the challenges in validating transactions on these chains, enhancing their security, and basically a path forward to decentralization, right? So BOLD's main goals here are to speed up the settlement of the transactions happening on these chains, and really prevent any sort of malicious parties from like unfairly slowing down that process, right? So in current systems of optimistic rollups and current architecture, validators need to prove the correctness of transactions on Arbitrum chains. This process can take pretty much anywhere up to 7 days to dispute these resolutions, right? However, the system can be exploited by malicious validators who may repeatedly delay confirmations, which in turn affect the withdrawal process of the assets from the chains, right? And that's why in current state, Arbitrum chains are validated by whitelisted parties, right? To make sure that none of the maliciousness may happen or things of that nature, right? And BOLD, I should say, solves this. I was going to say, I just said bald. BOLD solves this problem by enabling any one honest validator to win disputes against multiple malicious validators, right? And this approach basically ensures that the validation process is more, number one, robust, and it's also permissionless, right? Because it doesn't rely on a specific group of validators per se. Instead, any one party who agrees with the transaction's validity can defend it until a disagreement arises, right? And just on some final thoughts there, the BOLD protocol's code and research specifications are publicly available on GitHub. Would implore anybody to go check it out if you're curious or technically inclined, etc. It's been audited by Trail of Bits. It's been a very ongoing process with that, and basically the advancement holds the potential to significantly enhance the efficiency and reliability of Arbitrum chains, right, making them a lot more resilient against malicious attacks, and quite simply enabling quicker transactions, right? And to actually implement this, it will go, in front of the DAO as a constitutional binding vote. And if they do vote it through, right, at that point, it would, go through the voting process and the integration process, et cetera. But then, there will be permissionless validation on Arbitrum chains. And that's just one step closer, right, to becoming a stage 2, layer 2 rollup. A lot to unpack.
Yeah, so maybe we could just go back and take a look at the whole process of how the BOLD system works. So currently there's a 7-day period, which is completely permissioned by is Off-Chain Labs or whoever's running the dispute protocol. But what you're saying is that opening it up and making it permissionless would make it vulnerable to denial of service attacks.
And in its current state, correct.
In its current state.
Yeah. And this BOLD upgrade, or if you will, right, will change the back end architecture to some degree to allow that to not happen by allowing any one validator to be able to basically prove, right, the transaction is true and defend itself against multiple parties of malicious actors.
Do you know how that single honest validator is able to prove that it's honest?
It's a good question, right? And it's such a new thing that I personally haven't been able to dive into the code quite yet. However, there are certain cryptography practices and mathematical things that happened, in the background that do enable this to happen. And the very smart folks here at Off Chain Labs have worked very hard on that for quite some time to bring that to fruition, basically.
And so, like this goes to Arbitrum Nova, right? First, and then it'll come to Arbitrum 1.
So the DAO has to vote it in for both Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nova. They're the chain owners for both of those chains, right? So once, if they decide to vote it in at that point, it would likely be both at the same time. And one other cool thing I should say about this is that this bold protocol, right, will also be able to work with Orbit chains if the Orbit chain developer decided that this is something they wanted to pursue, right? So it's very modular in that sense.
Interesting, very interesting. So what's the what do you think the rollout time for this is going to be?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? So you can go check our blog post out, and basically there's a couple of things like loose ends that have to be tied in on our side, right? And then it will go to a DAO vote, if you will, right on Tally, where that process is about 7 days or so, and then a couple of weeks after that, it would be integrated onto the chains. We'd love to see it in a couple of months' time, if you will, maybe 1 to 2.
How many participants? Like you explained earlier, maybe we can get back to it a bit on the fact that currently only whitelisted parties do the validation. Like, can you maybe expand on it for those of us who don't really know? Like, for example, how many whitelisted parties currently participate in the Arbitrum validation process? And if you can share maybe on who are these entities and what kind of benefits are we going to have by decentralizing them? And who are, for example, the first actors that you think will enter this new space of will become the new actors with it?
Yeah, for sure. And then just to retroactively go back, right, to Sam's question in regards to implementation, right? There's going to be releases of local dev nets that folks will be able to spin up, and then along with that, a test net that folks can basically play around with, et cetera, right? A couple of weeks for that to happen, and then yes, a DAO vote will kind of take place. But in regards to the validation currently happening on the Arbitrum networks, DeFi, so yes, it is a whitelisted process, and that process is without naming specific names or specific numbers, right? They're trusted parties that will attest to the validity of transactions happening right on the Arbitrum network. And the first parties that I foresee wanting to participate right in the permissionless validation of Arbitrum chains are basically folks that specialize in that vertical, right? There have been many requests to become whitelisted validators here on the network. A ton of interest from organizations again that specialize in that type of operation, right? So I would see those folks kind of jumping there first, if you will, right? Now, in saying that, they have the necessary type of architecture, right, and operations to start spinning something like this up quickly. But in saying that, again, it's a permissionless, will be a permissionless operation, if you will, right? So anybody, if they had the necessary knowledge and operational capacity, if you will, right, can be able to validate the network.
Okay, so to me, this seems like a no-brainer, right, for most of everyone, especially if you value decentralization. But since this is going to be going to a DAO vote, right, I'm sure everybody is looking at this and then thinking, okay, with an upgrade like this to the chain, what are the potential downsides, especially for less technical people? So do you have any idea of in whatever worst case or whatever, what kind of vectors does this open up, or what should people be considering when they're voting for this?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. When I mean in regards to attack vectors and things of that nature, I'm not the guy to really speak on that. In regards to, the DAO delegations voting on this, I think there's a number of things that they should take into account, right? And to your point before, it's like, how much do you value decentralization, right? Do you the Arbitrum networks have worked quite well, right, for the last years of operations that they've been in thus far. Do you want to open that up to folks that are maybe not too familiar with this type of process, considering these kind of whitelisted actors have been doing their job well in that sense, right? It's kind of a first of its kind to a certain extent, right, on this type of protocol upgrade. So are there unknowns? There may be, there may be not. But again, I think the core ethos question for the DAO would be, right, is it, do you want to move towards that path of decentralization, right, or do you not?
I've got a question. I'm reading through the audit that you had done by Trail of Bits, and it's very good. The question I have is just that there's a number of like security concerns that they marked as like high. Most of them look like they're pretty addressable. Are these planned on being addressed before like the deployment, or is this already deployed?
No, this is none of this is deployed as you see it now. In regards to the Trail of Bits security audit, we have top tier engineers that have been working on this, etc. If there's any sort of extreme attack vector that is outlined in there, it will be adjusted and accurately, what's the word I'm looking for? Looked into, if you will. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you stick around and kick it on the headlines with us for a little bit, because you always offer really good takes.
For sure, man.
Well, we also had a continuation of the PayPal story. So people found the contract yesterday, and we're actually digging into the code. It does have a few differences than USDC or USDT. Notably, it has the ability to, it does have the ability to freeze, and it does have the ability to
seize,
like not seize, but like blacklist. But in addition to that, it also has this ability to return frozen funds back to the issuer. So unlike Tether, where they just freeze it, now those funds can be taken back.
Yeah, I'm not too worked up about all this. First of all, like all of our favorite high market cap redeemable stablecoins have like blacklist capabilities. So like people like
doesn't USDT and all of these have the ability to burn them anyway? So they could just burn them and mint them again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the incentives are not aligned because it's in USDC and USDT and all these people's interest to just be like randomly using that blacklist function all the time. Thankfully, they're not. But people like aping into the most degenerate Ponzi schemes with like the worst rug pull function. So it's also upgradable code. It's a proxy contract, so they could upgrade it.
Yeah, and the funniest thing to me is that it's written in like such an old version of Solidity, right? I haven't seen many people talk about this, but especially after the Viper thing, I'm having like PTSD.
So my take was like the opposite, which is that like basically, as far as I can tell, like they are just like copying what's worked for all of Paxos's other stablecoins. So it's like if these other stablecoins were launched using, ERC20s are supposed to be quick and easy to deploy, and these are all like fairly battle tested. So it's like probably safest that they just go off of like what hasn't been hacked.
I mean, it's not very surprising, but a centralized financial conglomerate here in the States is putting in backdoors, if you will, into their centralized stablecoin. I don't think it's very surprising.
Yeah, that's the price you have to pay to accept the deposits, in my opinion. I think there's other ways you could structure it, but no one's doing that yet.
I would have been more surprised if they didn't have that functionality, to be honest. Right?
True. It's kind of the norm within actors of this such. I think the main role of such an entity entering the space and like having such a huge project is not even necessarily the product itself. I think the significance of PayPal actually launching something like that and becoming like maybe a much more official on and off ramp and allowing their huge net of merchants to start using these kind of transactions on chain instead of not on chain and using stablecoins. I think it has much more like this can be a huge catalyst in my opinion for mass adoption. Despite all these, what you say, like these centralized issues that, just like you guys said, I agree, these were expected. I'd be surprised if they made anything that's actually decentralized, because why should they? You know,
I think it's a good point you put there for the merchants. I think about 40% of eBay transactions run through PayPal.
Wow.
I think eBay has like a north of 100 million like users or something along those lines. So it's a nice chunk, right? And I'm not sure if you've ever sold anything on eBay or bought anything on eBay, but using PayPal versus some of the other like payout options that they have is basically 10 out of 10 times you would rather use PayPal than like input any credit card or anything like that, right? So we're definitely curious to see how they kind of incorporate the stable coin into and not only their eBay transactions, but all their merchants, right?
I've never seen an actor with such a huge network effect like become an active participant in the space. I mean, like before I knew anything about crypto, I never knew who is like Tether or who is Circle. But PayPal, everyone knows who's PayPal. You know, people all around the world use their products and like actually do it. So the amount of this gives us as an industry kind of a new stamp. I think we can find ourselves in a few months or a year or however how long it may take, but with kind of a different approval, like socially, because an entity like PayPal can really make us like a lot more people swallow crypto more easily, you know.
Well, I've been having a lot of chats with a lot of folks, and basically the consensus here is like abstracting away any sort of actually interacting with with the blockchain itself, and it's definitely relevant in folks that are developing like games and things of that nature in regards to like abstracted wallets, things like that. And then I think, yeah, to your point, right, like abstracting away like the actual blockchain, but using the stablecoin itself as a kind of instant settlement, if you will. Great step forward. I'm a fan of what this is for sure.
Yeah,
I just think they're looking at the fact that like Tether is making more money than BlackRock, and like PayPal needs to grow, and they're huge, so there's not a lot of growth opportunities for them. So like they're looking at this being like, hey, this could easily provide us like a 10-20% financial growth.
I think
stockholders will love that.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that, I mean, we're going to see the rollout of PYUSD over the next few days. Embattled Huobi said that they were the first to list PYUSD last night, and and additionally, in a Spaces yesterday, we had Sam Kazemian from Frax saying that he had just gotten off the phone with Paxos, and he couldn't tell details about the call, but we could probably guess what was happening in relation to the PayPal dollar. So taking a look at the contract, right now there is 26 million. Let me pull this up. There's $26 million or 26 million PYUSD in supply. That's surprising, actually. How like one day you've already got all this PYUSD.
I didn't even know it was mintable yet.
20 million.
It's probably their test budget. Like to be honest,
eight holders actually.
Oh, there you go.
Only 8 holders though. So I don't know who that's going to. Let's see. So there's one person. This is probably Huobi that holds the majority of it, and then we have a bunch of other like probably test transactions for like 20, 16, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. It's a little strange, isn't it?
It's Justin's son, and
yeah, maybe.
Could be exit liquidity for Justin's son.
Maybe, but
I like how they hold USDC in that wallet.
Yeah. So the contract is let's take a look at this person. This seems like a exchange address. So this is probably Huobi's account that was sent to. That's interesting that Huobi was actually like the first to get this PYUSD. I'm guessing it probably is going to come to Curve maybe in the next few weeks.
Yeah, when are we going to see some PYUSD pools and bribes and stuff? Like,
yeah, soon.
How probable is that?
Maybe
Yes,
one of the biggest OTC buyers was PayPal.
I mean,
you've seen this talk with Mitch and the others. Who shared it today?
Oh, Mitch has been on fire. Mitch is I've started like watching the social chat for Curve now, and
yeah,
Mitch is always on the jokes.
It's a fun one. But we hosted a poll on Leviathan News yesterday, and admittedly, our audience probably skews towards some Curve maxis because we actually like cover the ecosystem pretty well. But it was like 50-50. No, I'm personally bearish. I doubt I would definitely fade that if there was an opportunity to fade it. I don't think they're gonna be bribing.
Yeah, I don't think
Absolutely agree. Yeah, there's no fucking way.
Right?
But you guys mean like never or soon? You know what I mean?
Never.
Yeah.
No,
Really?
I think they should if they want to have like utility for the ecosystem. I just don't think any TradFi player is going to be bribing anytime soon.
Okay, you want to talk about TradFi or you want to talk about exploits?
To do this anyway, right? That's what I'm kind of like thinking. They could probably
Come
just
again?
make it partners.
Yeah, third party company that comes in and bribes.
That I could see, but not from PayPal directly.
No,
Yeah,
that's
but
what
it's them. Even if it's a third party that they promote, like behind the scenes.
No, I don't mean that they have a third party bribing curve. I mean that they have a third party just like on a central limit order book or whatever.
I might bribe the pool, but there's no way PayPal's bribing the pool, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I could throw $5 into the bribes and technically win the bet.
PayPal is buying our bags and it's just you $5 in.
So let's talk about rugs. Yesterday there was 3. We had Steadify, who was hacked for 1.14 million. Steadify is a Arbitrum leveraged yield strategy vault. Fortunate for them.
Was this a hack or was this a rug?
Their wallet, the deployer wallet got compromised.
Would Bold be able to reverse it?
No.
No.
No, that's gone, man.
How does a deployer wallet get compromised?
They put their keys on Google Drive, right?
Keys compromised. SIM swap. Who knows?
There are no coincidences.
Yeah, suspicious for sure.
Very, very suspicious.
Not saying anything, but suspicious, man. And also, like $1.4 million taken away. And look, we're not even blinking. We're not even surprised. I don't know. I don't know how good.
It's all magical internet money, anyways. So,
thank God for that.
Additionally, there was also the decentralized exchange Cipher protocol on Solana, which was exploited for close to $1 million. I believe this was the last remaining TVL on Solana. It's gone now.
I think I saw something from Davis. He was just like, farming these Solana coins is getting so tiresome.
And then lastly, I don't know does this count as a rug? So Goldfinch RWA protocol makes loans to people in the developing world. And this week, a $5 million loan was defaulted on by a Kenyan motorbike company called Tugende. And Tugende had violated the terms of their loan. And this was 4% of the TVL of the protocol. Oof. You're going to have to take a net 3.95% write down over the next 12 months.
I'm not sure you can count that as a rug. I think you can count that as extreme negligence and horrible access controls.
Yeah.
I think that's the protocol functioning as normal, right? They're doing these loans collateralized.
One thing that's like I'll talk about my book a little bit, like cool about the some of the grant programs coming out of the DAO right now is that they point back towards this function that, if you get dispersed funds, and if the DAO or the the organizations giving out these grants don't feel as if you're basically living up to the proposal that you put in, right? You're not actually putting in the work, etc. They can go ahead and claw back those funds, whether or not they're sitting inside of a non-treasury address. And I think like for grants like that moving forward, or even for loaning folks chain off money, right? You have to have better access controls and better distribution systems so that you can mitigate something like that actually happening.
So what happened with Tagundi is that they took this $5 million loan and they lent out $1.9 million to somebody else. And now they're not able to recover it in time to pay it back. And
that's so good.
Thicky had a nice comment. So let me just pull this up. So apparently the people that are affected by this are going to have to wait nearly 8 years to recover all of their funds, or recover the principal from Goldfinch Fi. So achieve sticky liquidity with one simple trick, he said. And then Thicky also said, RWA stuff is a nice narrative, but all the failures of Maple and now Goldfinch show that you're completely SOL when the borrower rugs you. Why not buy foreign treasuries on chain instead of lending to Kenyan motorbike companies?
Is he wrong?
I'm sure you can get I wonder how much a Kenyan 2-year is versus what they're lending at.
Counterparty risk, right? Yeah. Like this is the thing. I think sometimes in DeFi, everybody gets so caught up in the on-chain, let's call it the smart contract risk, that everybody forgets about the financial risks, which is just this is completely like there's no hack here, right? The code worked. It's just that the protocol was a bad one, or the idea was a bad one, and boom, you reap what you sow.
The design. You have to design it in a way that's sustainable, not only with good contracts. Like Wenmund says, you need to have like a financial view on things as well.
But I gotta say, if anybody's willing to loan me funds in the same way, and then I can lend them out again, I am more than happy to take this.
Maybe you should set up a company in Kenya.
It was my company all along. It's me on my motorcycle.
If it was you, you'd do it sooner, man. Come on, you'd think of it earlier.
Oh, man, I need to find these quicker.
So we also had a 911 announced called Seal 911, launched by Samsung and some other white hat hackers. So it's a Telegram bot that allows anyone to use during emergencies to get in touch with trusted members of the security community and their extensive network of contacts. It's kind of interesting. All of the people on the Seal 911 are public.
Not all, but some, yeah.
No, they should be all. So he said, you're partial list of everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Let me share this tab instead. So you can see some of the people here. It's like Frank, researcher from Wintermute. We also have, yeah. So Samsung as well too. So a good group of people, hopefully, who can help with just bad situations.
This is goated. These are the goats.
Yes, they are.
Stuff, yeah.
Yep. We saw this during the curve hack where there was some, Addison was kind of pinging people trying to say, hey, look, I got some ideas about what might happen, what might go down. I need to get in touch with somebody. So kind of like a central 911 line. I think it's a good idea.
Shout out Addison, rising star.
Chaddison is
Chaddison. Has he hit 18 yet, or is he still underage?
He's going into his freshman year at MIT.
Oh wow! Congratulations to him.
I'll do it.
I met Addison 2 years ago when he was running his pocket service, and literally like managing it from high school like in class, furiously typing and coding while everybody else was studying history.
Yeah,
Look
I'm
at 'em
bullish
now.
on like this entire industry is secured by people who aren't legally allowed to shave.
It's good on you, Chattison. Unsheath announced a $3.3 million raise. So this Unsheath is a, is that how you pronounce it? Unsheath is a like ETH liquidity or staked ETH liquidity aggregator. And they have raised money from Summa Capital, Iconic, the Lao, Back-In Capital, Image Ventures, and more to be able to grow as well too.
Actually, you know what? Speaking of raises and under collateralized lending, they go under the radar because they have a very low social media profile. But GoldLink, which we'll be building and deploying on Arbitrum, under collateralized prime broker solution, have their own little twist on it. We'll see what comes out of that. But they did just raise from Polychain, Sky Vision Capital, and a bunch of others as well. Raises are still happening, but a little bit on the softer side, one would say.
Only if you have the like semiconductor or whatever. Not what's the new VC trend? They move from AI to superconductivity.
Mm-hmm. So Garrett, maybe you could talk about how liquidity has recovered on Curve since the exploit. What's been going on there?
So obviously, like in the wake of the hack, a lot of people moved their funds out. Frax was a big amount of this, right? But then since then, as like the dust has settled, a lot of stuff has been moving back. We saw that Curve USD was in the immediate aftermath. Like there was also some people moving out, which kind of created like just very quickly we saw like slight depeg, so borrow rates adjusted, but everything's been stabilizing quite nicely. So I think it's like getting back to a little bit business as usual. There's still no word on like the hacker. As we talked about yesterday, the information is now like, if you can give any information that will lead to the conviction of the hacker in the court of law, 10% of the bounty is yours. No one has yet stepped up to claim it. So that's got me concerned. It's probably a hacker that's someplace outside of like where the law can touch them, like a Somali pirate or something.
And those funds just haven't moved yet, have they?
No, just sitting there.
Maybe they should.
Could be. Yeah, could be they're waiting for more liquidity in the Tri-Curve pool to use that as exit liquidity.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, there's not so much liquidity in the Tri-Curve pool yet, right?
It's getting closer, but like last I looked, it would be if they'd moved it, they would get only like $2 million out with 60% slippage.
Just take that and go. I guess they can be patient, right?
Likely not their first rodeo.
Yeah, if you're Lazarus Group, what do you do, right?
Just let it sit there.
Well, if it was Lazarus, they already would have swapped out to whatever they could. They wouldn't be sitting on it.
You think?
Yeah.
They couldn't swap out at all, right? Because the entire liquidity was drained, at least on chain. So
they get 60% slippage right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they could slowly start to do it, right? I mean, it's. I don't think it's. I think they would have moved faster in trying to get it into ETH and then into whatever sort of mixing service they would be used, like either Tornado Cash or something else.
Actually, I think it's smart of them to wait, because then if it was me, I'd do the same. I would wait and then pretend that I'm not going to dump it, pretend I'm going to lock it for 4 years, and then dump it all quickly, rather than like showing that, yeah, as soon as you put liquidity in, I'm going to dump into you, right?
Wouldn't it just make sense to instead, like, you don't have to, like, you don't have to dump it. You don't have to dump it in the pool. Couldn't they just make like a one tick Uniswap order between like Curve and ETH, and then just leave it, let somebody buy through?
Well, nobody will buy that much.
Well, it'll sit there. No, I mean, it'll sit there, and they can just wait until they get filled. You know.
No, because then the price would just go down. Like the price would never fill that order, right?
It'll go to. Why not just push the price down until somebody will fill it somewhere?
Yeah, the centralized exchanges could absorb that large of an order too. So
yeah, of course,
it might be.
Yeah. I think. Look, I think there's like ways to get out of the CRV if they wanted to, like that with the Uniswap orders, or like there's a bunch of different ways. I mean, they could, like, if anything, they should just take it, lock it for 4 years, and then get all the 3 CRV that comes.
Yeah. Look, Curve Hacker, why don't you come on the show and we can brainstorm some strategies with you?
We'll help you out.
Yeah, just send us your IP address first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you can also support the channel.
He's watching right now.
No. We're not taking any illicit funds. But on that note, we do actually have a donation link that you can use. It is on the notes in YouTube, and I don't think it's on Twitter, but we do have a link somewhere. We should really get a QR code so people can scan in the top right. Let me actually see. I think I did make a QR code. Oh yeah, here we do have a QR code.
You're running the Super Bowl playbook.
Yeah.
Here we go. We have this nice little donate thing in the top left. You can just scan it. It'll take it to Arbiscan, and you can send a few sats. Wait, no, it's not Bitcoin. What's like a few Gwei? There we go. Everything helps.
Only legal funds, folks. Only legal funds.
Okay. So we also had news of Uniswap deploying to Base. Base seems like it's up and coming. They have a on-ramp and off-ramp now instead of just the one-way on-ramp. They've got a couple of dexes. Uniswap is there, and looks like it's flourishing as a place for meme coins.
What's the total TVL there currently?
On Base, I'll look it up quickly. But what do you think the prospects for Base are?
I mean, bullish.
It's an interesting question, right? If you look at, I don't know what Coinbase did in the past with their NFT marketplace, that didn't do so well, right? It seems like Base is doing very well in regards to users bridging over there to like just initial liquidity as well. We'll see what the regulatory environment kind of looks like for them as they kind of continue with that type of stuff. It was very surprising, but I mean it's super bullish Base, right? Like Coinbase has 100 million users. It just kind of makes sense that if any of those users haven't been on chain yet, that the first chain maybe they will interact with will likely be Base, right?
Yeah, they're gonna have like project flow as well, because you have like Coinbase Ventures or whatever. They're gonna say please deploy on Base. They're gonna have users obviously because straight from Coinbase. I think though, what I'm really interested in is what will the user base look like, right? So if we look at each chain, each user base of each chain is really, really different. So especially Arbitrum has a lot of guys who just love derivatives. And that's why I guess Arbitrum's derivative side is so flourishing, even compared to spot. But I feel like my thesis is kind of that this will maybe sort of turn into what BNB, what is it even called? BSC was in like 2020. Just because it is like a exchange chain. I wonder what kind of retail. Obviously, it's going to be retail, but what kind of retail is it going to attract?
Well,
yeah, don't you think that they will also have like ability to attract some institutional investors or capital or participants? Because they do, like you said, they have Coinbase custody, I think it's called. Like they do have also access. I agree that it's mostly retail, but I'm not so sure that they won't have any like institutional.
I think in the long run, you may be right, but at least for now, the security SEC stuff probably is not going to. It's probably going to be an even playing field right now, at least. Right.
To build on that too, it's like if DeFi protocols actually don't go build their like financial instruments that folks can play on, then what do you have? You have basically just the venture side of things, which I think there will be a lot on Base. But in regard to like hedge funds or prop shops or anybody that is an experienced trader or in that sense, maybe like right? Like why would you bridge the Base if there's actually nothing that you can do there financially in regards to like using protocols? But does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's exactly kind of what I'm getting at, right? It all depends on what's there, right? The institutions aren't going to come, I think, for Bold to ape into Bold. I mean, I don't know, maybe BlackRock's new investment thesis is shaping up, but yeah, it all depends on who builds that, and that all depends on what the user base looks like. So it's going to be interesting to watch both of those things kind of grow.
And,
So
for Coinbase, it's a great revenue generator, right? They're collecting all of the sequencer fees. So.
Yeah, all the sequencer fees. I would think that there would be some confluence of USDC promotion and use along with full account abstraction on Base. And that could become like its killer app where, you know, the USDC or the USDC on Coinbase is limited in what it can do. But as soon as you build that full environment where maybe you build a payment system, right, that can compete with Square or something.
That's a super interesting point, Sam. Did you guys see the news this morning about USDC and what they released? I briefly saw the headline. I didn't read the article, but it was along the lines of like USDC releases maybe wallet architecture or something along those lines for folks that want to like basically incorporate USDC into their build, if you will, and doing so in an easy fashion or something along those lines.
Oh, I have that story right here. I'll pull it up.
Yeah. So that kind of fits that thesis there, Sam.
Yeah, so Circle makes crypto payments easier with new programmable Web3 wallet for businesses. So Circle's programmable wallets platform works for Ethereum, Avalanche, and Polygon, and will expand to other blockchains later this year. So I'm guessing that this is the programmable wallet allows for businesses to build services on top, letting consumers send, receive, and store cryptocurrencies, including USDC and non-fungible tokens. I think that the thing that Coinbase can do is just promote USDC on Base as saying like, build us a service that you can build a full payments environment on Base. We'll make it fully account abstracted and just make it easy for people to use. Make USDC the primary use case. It doesn't have to be gambling or anything on Base. I think they could probably even subsidize wallet fees somehow. Based on the interest income. That's the thing that I really think is the killer app is like make a L2, but then have like whitelisted apps in the sense of what I was talking about, and then like repay them for usage. Right.
That's what I originally thought Base was going to be.
Yeah.
Or for whitelisted developers. So I was kind of surprised when all that stuff started happening. I was like, oh wow, I guess it's just open for anybody permissionless. That was going to be opposite.
It may. I think they probably have some. Coinbase Ventures obviously has to have some teams in the background that are building stuff for Base
for sure,
and scouting other teams that they could build on Base as well too. So this is still the early days. There's nothing really that's been fully fleshed out, but I would assume that in the next 6 to 12 months we're going to see some big pushes on like payments and infrastructure, account abstraction, like all the things that make it way more easier to use for like new customers that are already used to the Coinbase environment.
I think you have a great point there actually, because if they can create a way for their own like existing user base to easily use this L2 like much easier than the other L2s without bridging and without all that kind of stuff, and without even maybe knowing that they use a wallet, because they can account abstract the way the whole experience. It's actually a great point in my opinion. And it also leads me like to the other part I want to ask, like, how do you, for example, if you're Base, how do you make builders like on Arbitrum, like to want to also build on Base? Like how do you attract the human capital, like people like Wenmoon and Umami and other teams that you can see pretty much building on Arbitrum for at least 2 years and kind of thriving. How do you attract this human capital?
Yeah, Wen, how do you attract the human capital?
You give me money. That's it. You pay me, I'll come.
No, I think it's a tough question,
Practical.
right? How much like marketing can they do with illicit, I'll say, DeFi protocols to that extent, or NFT mints or things like that, right? So how much support can you give on the off-chain aspect of things? I think that'll be a tough thing for them to tackle. I'll be honest, it's a very, I think they have an uphill battle in regards to like any sort of regulatory concerns that they may have regarding Base and how they can actually support these types of folks that are building on the chain.
Yeah, especially with this, like the fact that it isn't even permissionless. And I was like with you, Nick. I thought it was gonna be like permission builders, right? Because then it's even more like, okay, how are they gonna stop, whatever concerns are gonna come eventually thrown at this? How are they gonna stop that? I don't really know.
So Chris Black, always with the good comments, saying that Coinbase should be held accountable for scams happening on Base. Company has full control and could be stopping scams before they start. It's not decentralization; it's strategic decision making. And he's right. They control the validators, they control the sequencers. It's fully in control of Coinbase, which is a public company. And if there is one thing that they could be attracting, it's the regulators. So
yeah, I mean, in your fight with the SEC, you don't want like any discovery process like this. And on your chain, this bald coin rug for 100 million, it's like it probably doesn't help your case out too much. I'm also not a lawyer, so I'm not sure how that would ever fit into something like that. But
so we also had another story, which will be our last one for the day. Kraken has listed several Reddit community tokens, notably Moons and Bricks and a few other ones, driving the prices of those tokens up 50%.
You know what chain those tokens are on?
Polygon?
Arbitrum Nova.
Arbitrum Nova. Hey, cool.
Sure.
LFG.
Actually, the first major centralized exchange to list an Arbitrum Nova coin. So very exciting.
Oh, wow. How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, so Reddit used to have like this crazy point system or whatever, right? And I believe they still do to a certain extent, but they're looking to embrace some sort of Web3 type of functionality, right? Ended up working alongside them, right, to release these coins and NFTs on Arbitrum Nova. And it's funny, a lot of the to your point before, Curvecap, in terms of like abstracting away a lot of these the blockchain formalities, if you will, the folks on Reddit like minted these NFTs, and many of them didn't even know that they were, number one, NFTs, and that they were interacting with blockchain, right? So it's very cool, very dope to see.
So I'm just looking for the prices on.
I think it like mooned not too long ago.
Is this Fortnite bricks, or am I like?
I don't believe it has anything to do with Fortnite though. That would be sweet though.
Because I'm looking at Kraken prices now. It looks like this was recently added. So the Fortnite brick, this is one of the ones, brick, trading up 50%. And then the other one was Moon, I believe.
Up bigly.
Let's see if it comes up. Oh, here, recently listed. They have a recently listed page. But yeah, I think that it was interesting to see how Reddit shifted during that whole time period, especially during the NFT boom, where there was like the general consensus was that NFTs were bad and they should all just, be burned into oblivion, versus now when they're distributing their own like token through Moons as well too. And everybody's on board. I guess when you give people money, when people see people getting money, they're really jealous. But when they get it themselves, then they're okay with it.
Respect.
Yeah. Win Moon, what degree of involvement did you have with their tokenomics?
Yeah, this is my new venture. Me and Nick, we were chatting for a long time over lunch yesterday, but now we finally got it running. I'm very excited.
That's interesting though, Sam. You went straight to Polygon because they do seem, they have done a lot of these kind of strategic Web2-esque partnerships, etc. Right? So
yeah, and I think they did some NFT thing with Reddit as well a little while back, right?
Yeah, I thought so as well too.
They
did NFTs.
Yeah,
they did a
but that wasn't. I don't think it was like the abstracted version. Essentially, this is better.
Okay.
Yeah, but was it with Reddit?
Yeah.
Because I only remember that Nova had some kind of agreement with Reddit.
No,
a while
it was
back.
it was a
With one system. What's that?
yeah. Here, this is an older story. So it was about Polygon's Reddit NFTs surpasses 10 million holders and $32 million in sales. And that was done on
Seems like
Polygon.
Reddit is testing both angles. I think
This
it's
was a
kind of
long
weird.
time ago, so I think you know.
Interesting.
Like,
10 million
really-
holders.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, boys.
Well, that's a good place to wrap it up. Thank you.
Before we bounce, wanted to give a big shout out to CryptoVester77 on Twitter, who has been slicing up some of our Leviathan clips, particularly with the Austin Campbell interview yesterday, and posting them for easy consumption. So CryptoVester77, if you're not in the the Telegram group, come on by and say hi.
For sure.
Also,
And by the way,
please
folks,
make
if
a
you want
shout
to
out.
also try and slice some videos yourself, like specific phrases or cuts that you've enjoyed, and you want to, you can even use maybe the clip function on YouTube and send it to us, and maybe we can use them, because we're starting to discuss how we're going to approach the short videos aspect of stuff, and we definitely want to get the community involved. I think it can facilitate the process.
Very cool. Well, thank you everybody for being here. We will see you back tomorrow, and send us some good vibes. Actually, chthonic vibes. Squid and squidettes. What was it, Garrett? What was that nice little phrase you had in the beginning, like in the first month?
Until the next tide. Was that
Until
it?
the next time? No, it was something else. It was quite dystopian and world destroying.
Until the Leviathan wraps its slimy tentacles around every.
Well, that's enough of that. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you everybody for tuning in.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
folks.